Just moments ago, the unthinkable unfolded at the US-Canada border. A line that stood as a symbol of sovereignty for over 2 centuries, now teetering on the brink of erasure, because one man's ego can't handle a neighbor standing tall. Imagine waking up to a world where Donald Trump, the self-proclaimed deal-maker turned destroyer, casually floats the idea of wiping out the border like it's some pesky artificial line scribbled on a map, all while Canada's steel exports grind to a halt and our economy fights back against his bullying tariffs. This isn't just a trade spat, it's an assault on our very identity. And let me tell you, from the perspective of every hardworking Canadian who's ever waved the maple leaf with pride, this is the wake-up call we've been dreading, but must now confront head-on. Trump's bluster isn't strength. It's the desperate flailing of a leader who's terrified of a Canada that's resilient, innovative, and unbowed. Let's dive right into this mess, because what's happening right now isn't isolated. It's the culmination of months of tension that Trump has deliberately inflamed. Picture this. Canadian steel mills, from ArcelorMittal Dofasco to Stelco, slamming the brakes on shipments to the US, not out of spite, but because Trump's tariff enforcements and procurement rules have made it impossible to turn a profit. US construction sites from Michigan to Texas are scrambling. Costs are spiking 22 to 35% per project and deadlines are imploding. But here's the sharp truth. This isn't Canada's fault. It's Trump's miscalculation, assuming we'd blink first in his game of economic chicken. From the viewpoint of Canadian workers and families who rely on these jobs, Trump's policies are a direct attack, forcing our producers to choose between shipping at a loss or standing firm. And stand firm we have, because surrendering to his whims would cost us over $4.3 billion annually, bleeding our economy dry while he crows about America first. How dare Trump lay— This rhetoric isn't new. It's straight from his playbook of division, echoing his 2018 tariffs that cost downstream US manufacturing 17,000 jobs, while barely adding 80,700 in steel. But now, in 2026, with Mark Carney at the helm as our Prime Minister, Canada is pushing back with the quiet strength that's always defined us. Carney, the steady hand who navigated global financial storms as a central banker, isn't panicking behind closed doors like Trump's cronies. Instead, he's rallying provinces, engaging in smart diplomacy, and reminding the world that Canada isn't a pushover. From the people's perspective, Carney represents the leader we need, analytical, forward-thinking, and committed to fairness, while Trump embodies the bully who's alienated allies and turned trade into a tantrum. Over 18,000 US construction workers facing layoffs. That's on Trump, whose assumptions that domestic mills could ramp up overnight ignored the reality that they're already at 84% capacity. In Canada, our steel towns like Hamilton and Montreal are holding strong, ports quiet but resolute, because we've learned from history. Remember the USMCA? The trade deal meant to stabilize North America. Trump's sudden enforcements violate its spirit, as legal experts like George Conway have pointed out, giving us grounds for disputes that could drag on but ultimately expose his overreach. Hypothetically, if Carney were to address the nation today, he'd say something like, "We won't let one man's bluster erase our sovereignty." And the people agree. Polls show overwhelming support for standing firm, with 70% of Canadians viewing Trump's threats as economic extortion rather than negotiation. Sarcasm aside, isn't it rich that Trump, the guy who built his brand on walls, now wants to erase a border to grab our resources? This artificial line nonsense is code for annexation light, eyeing our critical minerals, oil and natural gas, while our economy weathers his storm. Take Alberta's bold move. A 1 million barrel a day pipeline corridor straight to the US, secured without federal fanfare, bypassing bottlenecks that Trump's allies in protectionism love to exploit. Premier Danielle Smith, this isn't defiance. It's smart economics, generating tens of thousands of jobs and tens of billions in revenue, all while partnering with indigenous communities through equity ownership. From the ground up, Canadians see this as empowerment. Provinces like Alberta stepping up when federal hurdles, often amplified by US pressures, stall progress. Trump's response? More threats, as if our success threatens his fragile empire. What kind of leader treats a longtime ally like a conquest waiting to happen? Trump's history is riddled with betrayals, ditching the Paris Accord, bullying NATO partners, and now, this border bluster that could shave 0.4% of US GDP growth, per Moody's analysis, while we in Canada innovate our way out. Under Carney, we're diversifying into tech, hydrogen, and carbon capture. Statistics don't lie. Canada's oil reserves are the world's fourth largest, and our emissions intensity is falling faster than most, making us the ethical supplier the world needs. Yet Trump condemns us as if we're the problem, ignoring how his policies push global demand to dirtier sources. Hypothetical quote from a Canadian economist: Trump's tariffs aren't protecting America. They're punishing everyone, including his own builders who now face 18% spikes in steel futures. Let's not sugarcoat it. Trump's vision of removing the border is a thinly veiled grab for our wealth, while Carney fights for our future from Ottawa. The people of Canada, from coast to coast, are united in condemnation. This president has turned diplomacy into domination. Past events like the 2018 tariff wars proved his short-term leverage leads to long-term damage, compounding job losses and inflation. Now, with our youth facing brain drain, not because we're failing, but because Trump's economy lures them with false promises, Carney's administration is investing in productivity, smashing oligopolies in telecoms and groceries to lower costs for families. Contrast that with Trump's protectionism, which shields use cartels while squeezing ours. Isn't it telling that while Trump jokes about Canada as the 51st state, our provinces like Saskatchewan and Manitoba eye similar southbound deals, not out of weakness but strength? This crisis exposes his hypocrisy, preaching America first while relying on our steel for his infrastructure boasts. Canadian supporters, including our European allies who've watched Trump's isolationism with horror, rally behind us, condemning his tactics as reckless. Data from the Canadian Steel Producers Association underscores our leverage. Nearly 40% of US foreign steel comes from us, a reliable partner he's alienating. If Trump pushes further, scenarios range from de-escalation, unlikely under his ego, to full escalation, potentially erasing 500,000 jobs continent-wide, per Oxford Economics. From every angle, Trump's border threat is condemnable, a sharp betrayal of North American unity. Carney, critiqued fairly by the people for past deficits, but praised for his technocratic calm, stands as our bulwark. Hypothetically, a Michigan governor might whisper, Trump's hurting us more than Canada as state petitions flood Washington for waivers. This is the people's fight. Workers, families, innovators, who see Trump's sarcasm as a mask for insecurity. How can a president who claims to love deals threaten to dissolve a border that's fostered peace since 1812? This crisis, sparked by steel halts and pipeline triumphs, highlights Canada's resilience against his aggression. Supporters worldwide, from UN reports flagging his worker exploitations to our own housing reforms under Carney, amplify our voice. We're not dying, as some claim. We're adapting, with Carney unlocking energy exports to Europe and Asia, smashing high costs that Trump's tariffs exacerbate. Trump's artificial line quip is the ultimate. Canadians condemn it outright, backing Carney's calls for grand bargains on minerals, lithium, cobalt, for mutual benefit, not domination. Past news like the 2025 tariffs surge, hiking US construction ETFs down 6 to 11%, proves his folly. Quotes from workers. Trump's killing my job site echo across borders. This is our stand. Canada endures, condemns Trump's overreach, and thrives under leaders like Carney, who prioritize people over posturing. Sharpen your focus. Because the border crisis Trump's ignited isn't slowing down. It's accelerating, with his artificial line threat now echoing in emergency meetings from Ottawa to Washington, exposing a president more interested in conquest. Mark Carney, our Prime Minister, embodies that balance, critiqued by some for fiscal slips, but lauded by the masses for steering us through storms with a data-driven resolve. Unlike Trump, whose impulsive tweets and tariffs have turned allies into adversaries. Let's peel back more layers, because this isn't just about steel or oil. It's about Trump's systematic undermining of Canadian sovereignty, viewed through the lens of our supporters who see his moves as imperial overreach. Alberta's pipeline corridor, a masterstroke of provincial ingenuity, directly counters Trump's squeeze, securing 1 million barrels daily into U.S. networks without his veto. From indigenous partners gaining equity to workers gaining jobs, this is Canada at its best, collaborative, forward-looking, while Trump's response reeks of jealousy, floating border erasure, as if our successes threaten his narrative. People across Canada cheer this as empowerment, condemning Trump for policies that stranded projects like Energy East, costing us $55 billion yearly in GDP potential. What gall does it take for Trump to call our border artificial when his tariffs are the real fabrication, designed to cripple competitors? Carney's approach, focusing on reconciliation and innovation, like the Pathways Alliance aiming for carbon neutrality by 2050, shows leadership Trump lacks. Statistics bolster this. Canada's productivity gap with the US stems not from laziness but from his protectionism diverting our capital. Yet under Carney, we're ramping investments in AI and machinery, closing that 30% divide. Hypothetical from a Toronto engineer, Trump's walls block progress. Carney builds bridges to prosperity. Sarcasm drips from Trump's playbook as he ignores how his actions fuel our brain drain, luring talent south with promises. While our housing crisis, median incomes at $70,000 versus $170,000 needed for homes, stems partly from his economic pressures. Canadians and supporters condemn this as exploitation, praising Carney for smashing diploma mills and reforming immigration to attract real talent, not gig workers in vans. Past events like the 2024 youth exodus, up 70%, highlight Trump's indirect role in hollowing us out. Isn't it condemnatory that Trump, facing his own deficits, eyes our resources like a vulture? Our uranium, natural gas trillions in reserves, could fuel global needs ethically. But his threats force Carney's grand bargain: secure access for lifted tariffs. Allies like Europe echo our criticism, viewing Trump's Trump corollary as hemispheric. From the people's view, Carney's steady critique of oligopolies, opening telecoms where we pay 7 times Australian rates, empowers us, while Trump's cartels thrive. Data: 80% grocery control in Canada. Carney's breaking it, Trump's ignoring similar US issues. This crisis condemns Trump utterly, his line removal a sarcastic jab at our independence. We stand with Carney, amplifying resilience. Share your thoughts in the comments. If you found this video interesting, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything.